piece of mail in my mailbox that had to do with Amendment 5. And so I was pleased to see that. I think there should be more of that. And here's where I think people are misunderstanding. People are saying to me, this is going to hurt seniors and this is going to hurt low-income families. And the reality is, and what they're really saying is, people don't need to be paying more for the milk and eggs and bread than they already are because, life's challenging and things are expensive, etc. And so I sympathize with that. And here's the good news. It's not going to affect things like groceries. Now, what I tell people is I like to wear, these fun shirts that I pick up at Macy's. They have a house brand called Club Room, and there are all sorts of fun shirts. They got that squiggles on them, polka dots, paisleys, whatever. I like to, when I go and pick that up, I imagine that'll probably cost a little more.
Yeah.
But I'm making a choice.
Right.
That's the whole whole point of it.
It's not coming directly out of your paycheck.
Right.
It's that tax is now on something that you're purchasing. And the good news is that we'll debate and have a conversation about how that's going to look instead of the blind, just we're taking this much out before you even get a say.
Exactly.
Before you even get to touch it. Yeah.
Exactly. That reminds me a lot. We're coming up on July the 4th. And so that reminds me a lot of taxation without representation kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Travis Wilson, I know we'll get you back in here a couple times before we get to these August elections. So that means you're going to be here at least 2 more times in the next 33 days.
I'm excited about
it. In the meantime, if people want to learn more about you and your campaign and the issues that you're focused on, what's the best way to do that? Website, social media,
Absolutely. So the website is wilsonforstc.com. Wilson for S, and that's spelled out. So it's WILSONFORSTC.com. And then they can always also follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. It's Wilson for St. Charles. And so happy to always share updates. And at the very least, they can always give me a call. 314-540-1965. That's my personal cell phone number, 314-540-1965. Thank you so much, Tony.
Yeah. Representative Travis Wilson, thank you for your time. As always, look forward to talking to you again very soon. Have a great holiday weekend, my friend. All right, that is going to do it for Colombo and Company this afternoon. Johnny and I will be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. In the meantime, keep it here for Larry's commentary next. Then the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk STL.
This spring into savings with Johnson Heating and Cooling. Rebates up to $600 off a complete HVAC system. And here's the deal. Purchase a complete system and get a free humidifier. Plus, financing available up to 0% for 60 months. Don't miss out. These offers expire June 30th. Visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com. That's johnson-heatingandcooling.com. Johnson Heating and Cooling. Your comfort, our priority.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Do you believe in life after death? Epic Times just published an article from a writer interviewing those who came back from the dead, clinically declared dead, but still lived. All of the events were different, but they all came back, she says, with a similar message. One was a Harvard-trained neurologist who did not believe in life after death, certainly not in God. He came down with a brain infection, given 2% chance of survival. The family took him off the ventilator, but he survived. He says what he learned from the other side, be careful of your beliefs, recognizing that life is unlimited even after death. A 19-year-old baseball player undergoing elbow surgery, his heart stopped. He said, I died with regret. A figure approached him on the other side and said, next time you die, be ready for it. Once recovered, he reached out to anyone he might have done wrong and apologized. A 21-year-old student in surgery realized she was above the surgery table watching the doctors and angels working on her. One voice saying, you're going back, you're going to teach. 30 years later, she is still teaching. When each was asked, do you fear death? Each answered, no.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Myella Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmoscholars.org.
Better education for students creates a better tomorrow for all. Learn how you can help provide a better education for Missouri students at herzogmoscholars.org. That's herzogmoscholars.org. Also, sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. herzogfoundation.com. That's herzogfoundation.com.
I want to share something with you. Cooking a pizza using coal creates an amazing pizza. Only one place to get it, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. Of course, they offer a wide variety of pasta, but you just visit the website napolistl.com, dine in or take out, and get ready for patio season. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Try it. You can thank me later.
I'm in my late 60s. My husband died a few years ago. He did all of our taxes. I sold a piece of property last year, and I forgot to claim the proceeds of the sale. Next thing I know, I got a letter from the IRS telling me that I owe over $50,000. Now I have a huge tax problem. I don't have that kind of money. I wish I knew who to call.
If you sold property in the last calendar year or didn't claim all of your part-time or even retirement income, you could be in big trouble with the IRS. Call first before they send you a letter. If you've already got a letter, call. We'll help you file years of past tax returns and save you time and money. So call the tax doctor. The call is confidential and free.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
Producer Joey V of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here, reminding you, don't waste a buck on movies that suck. Listen to Joey V's Movies Fridays at 5:45 for reviews you can trust. Brought to you by Harry J. Steakhouse, Freddy's Market, AAA Motor Speedway, and Best Buy Flooring.
News, analysis, opinion.
News Talk
HD3
STL.
Clay, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. That dangerous heat dome is giving way to powerful storms and flooding concerns. Correspondent Ken Lorman reports.
After days of dangerous record-breaking heat across the East Coast, Southeast, and Southwest, officials are reporting a rising death toll and say many victims were found in homes without air conditioning. The storms left nearly 1 million customers across several states without power and raised the threat of flash flooding as scorching temperatures give way to the threat of powerful storms, widespread outages, and flooding concerns. Ken Lorman reporting.
While ringing the opening bell for the New York Stock Exchange, President Trump was extolling his new Trump accounts, where his administration deposited one-time seed contributions, $1,000 each, into the Trump accounts of over 500,000 American children.
Children that are born without money, without any money. Great parents, they can have everything, can be great, but they have no money. They can become very wealthy children at 18, and they can flip it over, or their people can flip it over into other vehicles at a certain age so that they don't take it out. I would recommend they probably don't take it out, but they can have a lot of money, especially if the market continues.
A 5-day preliminary hearing for the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk is underway in Utah. Prosecutors are seeking to convince a state judge that they have enough evidence against 23-year-old Tyler Robinson to proceed to a trial. Robinson is charged with aggravated murder in the assassination of Kirk on the Utah Valley University campus last September. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 155 points. The Nasdaq rose 288. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
When I was feeling the stress of too much credit card debt, I looked at two different options: debt settlement and debt management. They may sound the same, but guess what? They're not. Debt settlement seemed like a quick fix, but I found out it would destroy my credit, create tax headaches, and hit me with huge fees. They actually told me to stop paying my bills. No way, not me. Then I turned to a debt management plan developed by the team at Trinity. They worked with my creditors, lowered my payments, reduced my interest, saved me thousands, and paid off my debt. And Trinity is a Christian company, which is important to me.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More near normal heat for Tuesday. It is a little bit hotter in the upper 80s, 70 for the low, 87 for the afternoon high, but not excessive heat or humidity. That's nice. There is a 10% chance for a little spot shower, thunder shower in the afternoon to early evening. And then we do that again on Wednesday. 10% chance for a spotty shower, otherwise a high of 89 as it continues to heat up a little bit as the week goes on for Wednesday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Window World of St. Louis. For replacement windows, doors, and siding, call 800-GET-WINDOWS. That's 800-GET-WINDOWS.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
At Body of Health, we're a small but mighty family operation with big ambitions for your health. I'm Helene Tobler, and I'm jazzed about how our MRI-grade body composition analyzer is putting personalized health and wellness on steroids. It helps me and Dr. Tobler, that's my husband, refine the advice we give to help you feel better and live longer. Body of Health, trusted, discerning, affordable health care the way it ought to be. Learn more at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty. The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The white flag of surrender at Yorktown, that was a big surrender. Nobody thought that was possible. Ever since, the entire world has been on notice that Americans will never let anyone take our freedom away. It won't happen. And all these talks from the communists, they haven't got a chance. Not even a chance. We don't want communists in our country.
It was quite a speech. It was quite a weekend. It was quite the fireworks display at our nation's capital. And we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Hope you had a great and safe Independence Day weekend. We're back in action today on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. All three of us in the studio. Chris Arps, hope you had a lovely and a wonderful Independence weekend.
Had a fantastic Independence Day weekend. Didn't do too much, Tim. Just kind of relaxed. Sat out in the back screened-in porch. Had a bourbon, cigar. Had a pretty good view of the downtown fireworks, and we kind of enjoyed it from there. But a good weekend.
That's fantastic. We tried to do as little as possible as well. We were down in the Table Rock Lake region, Branson area. It was absolutely stunning and spectacular down there. Had some really good weather. We avoided the big storms that I know hit a lot of the state. And Chris, because we were out with had the whole family down there, my folks, and it's my
60th.
No, not my parents. Yeah, that was Suzanne's parents.
Right, they had their 60th.
Suzanne's parents had their 60th.
Right,
yeah,
right,
my parents' 60th will be in about 3 years.
Okay.
So, but we were down there with my brother-in-law and my sister. My brother drove in from Kentucky with one of his kids, and we had my daughters. We had a nice time. And because we were there just hanging out, staying up late every night and all that, Chris, I actually saw the D.C. fireworks, which didn't start until 10:45 p.m. our time.
Yeah.
They started in D.C. on the 4th, and they were so long, they went into the 5th of July. A 1-hour-long fireworks display. They were trying to break the world record. I didn't hear if they did or not. Allegedly, they were going to shoot off 840,000 fireworks in a 60-minute period. And even though fireworks don't translate remarkably well over television, but these did because there were so many of them. So, yeah, it was quite the display up there. And President Trump brought in the next 250 years in Trump style.
And, of course, the liberals had to kind of rain on the parade a little bit. Tim, I read this morning how the city, Washington, D.C., the city, issued a smog alert saying that it was, honestly, that it was, Washington, D.C. was the most smog city in the world for that day. Now, immediately after the fireworks and smoke dissipated, of course, a few hours later, they dropped down on the list, but they had to make sure they put that out, that Washington, D.C. was smog-infested and was the most polluted city in the world for 24 hours.
That is too funny. I had a couple friends who were up there in D.C., and I don't know that I would have braced those crowds for any money in the world. It was 100 degrees and all that. That massive storm blew through. But some of the photos that some folks sent me of the Washington Monument with the fireworks around it, really amazing, just really stunning. We do live in an awesome country. There were a lot of great speeches. I watched some of the flyovers on TV with the B-2s and the F-16s and the F-22s. Pretty amazing. Sounds like they put on a pretty good show in D.C.
Yeah, I had the opportunity about 3 years ago to watch the fireworks at the mall on the 4th of July, and I would tell anyone that if you ever get a chance to do that, scratch that off your bucket list. Go to the mall and watch the fireworks. And, as you said, watching them explode behind the Washington Memorial or the Washington Monument was just absolutely incredible. An experience I will not soon forget.
Chris is here. I'm here. Producer Joey V. He survived the holiday as well. Didn't shoot off any fingers or toes, huh, Joey?
Not at all. I was jealous of the Arch on Friday because this DJ played named Zed, and he had lasers going on. He had a drone show with his name behind him. He was playing his music while the fireworks were going. And I thought that'd be so cool if I was down there. And I almost went down Saturday, and then it rained. And I said, I don't want to stand in the mud. Never mind.
I saw the video that Becky showed me over the weekend. That was an incredible show.
Yeah, I'm glad that, and Chris, I don't know if, I hate to bring it up, but it's over now, but I didn't hear of any bad stuff happening necessarily. Everybody was okay, or was there a murder count this weekend?
It got a little rough in North County. Police, North St. Louis County Police, actually one of the officers, a bunch of juveniles started getting crazy at a quick trip that was in North County. About 100 of them. It was after a pool party, and they all congregated at a quick trip. People were calling the police. A county officer actually shot into a car and injured a couple of youths. I don't think that it was life-threatening, but you can see the video online. It's an absolute mayhem. And remember, we talked about how Kara Spencer was putting in a curfew for downtown. That was instituted on July 3rd. 49 juveniles were arrested. So curfews work, and I think that kept the mayhem from happening downtown, and it spread out to North County.
Well, less carnage and chaos for the Independence Day weekend is a good thing indeed. And Chris, I don't know if you saw this headline this afternoon, but I just got 2 email alerts, one from National Review, and there was also a huge headline up at Fox News. Chris, Senate Republicans are smiling a little bit brighter this afternoon. There have been explosive new sexual assault allegations levied against Graham Plattner that may have caused him to cancel multiple events that he was supposed to hold over the weekend. And the phrase that was released from his campaign is that he is, quote, taking the time to reflect on the best path forward.
Then it's true, because I saw something on Facebook this afternoon saying that Graham Plattner was stepping out of the race. And, of course, I went to all the news sources to see if it was true, and I didn't see anything about it. So
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
so
yet.
Obviously, I think all the opponents of Graham Plattner have been waiting to drop some bombshells, and I guess and I would suspect this is the Democratic opposite. The Democrats are trying to get him out of the race so they can have some reasonable chance up there in Maine. But he's a potentially fatally flawed candidate, and the Democrats in Maine nominating him was absolutely amazing to me that they would do that. But look, they wanted to, latch on to this socialist wave that is sweeping the Democratic Party, and they've got this guy.
You got a real scumbag. And you know what? Democrat Senator John Fetterman, who has nicknamed Graham Plattner P. Hustle.
That's his nickname.
Oh, it's his nickname.
He used that on one of those sites that the pedophiles go to. That was his screen name, P. Hustle.
That's his grinder nickname or whatever that outlet's called, Kick or whatever it's called. And Chris, get this. Unlike the allegations levied against now Justice Brett Kavanaugh from decades ago that nobody could corroborate, nobody could remember. Chris, these allegations are from barely 5 years ago, and they are corroborated. They came from a woman by the name of she's come out in public. Maine resident Jenny Rassicote, 41 years old, told Politico over a course of 3 interviews that Plattner forced her to have sex 5 years ago, which he has categorically denied. The report says that a man Rassicote dated afterwards confirmed she told him at the time about the incident, which was also corroborated by emails between Rassicote and her therapist.
And, that kind of dovetails into the criticism that has been lobbed against him. Is a lot of the things with women, some of the other questionable things that he's done has been within the last 5 or 6 years, and he's trying to say, well, I'm a changed man now. But it's like, dude, it's like, if this was 20, 25 years ago, you could probably make that statement. And like, these are pretty recent revelations. How changed can you be in 3 and 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, you can't really say, well, the Nazi tattoo was from when I was a youngster and I was an idiot. But, the sexual assault allegations from 5 years ago, nobody should think about those either because, that was so 5 years ago.
Exactly.
He was a grown man and quite the adult, allegedly, when all of this occurred.
I just want to say, Tim, I got to put in a gas report here. You know how gasoline has just skyrocketed during the war now that it's the hostilities have subsided, that gas prices are coming down? I can attest to that. At the height of the war, it took $48 to fill up my little Chevy Sonic. Saturday, I filled up $31.
Wow.
And before all the hostilities started, it only took about $28. So about $3 above from where it normally was. And remember, all the liberals kept telling us in the media that it's going to take months and months and months before we get down to pre-war gasoline levels. Well, for Chris Arps personally, they are at pre-war levels already.
You feel like you got a raise.
I do.
And to prove your point, West Texas crude today coming in below $70 a barrel. Yeah. Notching the stock market today at $68.50 per barrel, and apparently still going downward. While, Chris, the stock market today hit another milestone, closed over 53,000 for the first time in U.S. history on the very same day. I mean, dare we say, divine intervention. The Trump accounts were launched, and Donald Trump rang the bell from the Oval Office for the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ.
Speaking of stocks, Nancy Pelosi and her husband have been accused of insider trading. Their wealth has exploded since she went into office. Well, Paul got into a little trouble over the weekend. Tim, did you hear about this?
He didn't have to fight another intruder off,
No, but I think he had a little too much to drink, and he ran into somebody's car, a parked car in Napa Valley, and took off. And they followed him, and he wasn't arrested yet, but he is possibly being charged with a hit and run.
I don't want to spread misinformation, but isn't this a problem hasn't he done this before?
I think so. I think he has hit a car before and took off. And, this is the second time.
I think he's got an issue with drinking and driving, and You know, they don't call her Martini Pelosi for anything. I think it runs in the family, apparently.
It says here, Tim, a witness watched a brown convertible head north, strike an empty and legally parked car, tear into its rear, and shove one tire over the curb, then pause briefly before fleeing. That was in the police report. So Paul Pelosi on the lam.
Guess what, Chris? Back in May of 2022, he was arrested in Napa County, California, after a car crash. He later pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge of driving under the influence of alcohol, causing injury, and he was sentenced to 5 days in jail.
Paul Pelosi went to jail?
3 years of probation and a drunk driving program.
So it looks like he's going to be back in trouble once again. But it kind of makes you think. I mean, if you were married to Nancy Pelosi, wouldn't that drive you to drink?
Be nice. We've got a jam-packed show for you here today. Of course, we have to talk about all the international and national security news of the day. Jim Talent taking a long weekend holiday.
Jim's in Napa Valley, Tim, for a Reagan Institute event. And I told him to have a Chardonnay for me while he's there.
Maybe he'll run into Paul Pelosi.
Maybe, who knows? It was in the same town.
Jim Talent is out and about doing the Lord's work all across the country, trying to save California from itself. We're going to be joined by Brent Sadler. I think, have we spoken to Brent Sadler before, Joey? That name sounds familiar.
I checked every podcast we've ever done since we started for 5 years, and he hasn't been on for 3 years.
Oh, wow. So we have had him.
So he's been on the station. I guess he's an expert in submarines, so maybe he's just been underwater. And now he's poked his head back up.
He's a submariner.
Well, what a perfect time to have Brent on. China conducted a rare submarine launched ballistic missile test. We're going to ask Brent Sadler of the Heritage Foundation what that means for world order or disorder. We'll also ask him for an update on the situation in the Middle East. Chris, many are asking, many retired generals are asking whether or not it is time to renew kinetic activity with Iran, because they're just apparently not willing to uphold any parts of the agreement that we allegedly struck with them.
Yeah, they're chilling this week because they're having the state funeral for the Ayatollah Khamenei. They're having people in the streets parading his coffin throughout the streets. So they promised that they weren't going to initiate any hostilities this week.
Yeah, as they chant death to America.
Exactly.
And they want to murder Donald Trump. So that'll be at 4:25. Hey, Chris, what's coming up at 4:45 on Chris's Corner?
Yeah, the real population crisis, Tim, nobody wants to talk about. You know, we talked to Dave Stokes last week about why the St. Louis School District is losing population. And, of course, the school districts are terrible and people are moving out, but also people aren't having children. And that's not just a United States or a local phenomenon. It's happening worldwide. We're going to talk about that on Chris's Corner at 4:45.
Glad you're bringing that up. That's a very important story that definitely is kind of been in the background of the last few years. And so I'm glad you're bringing that up at 4:45. 5:07, kind of wrapping up Independence Day weekend, the land of the free because of the brave. Found some very interesting things about America 250 as we embark on the next 250 years of our nation's history and hopefully many more decades to come, centuries to come. At 5:25, we'll speak with Susie Moore. She's back in action today. She was back on the morning show this morning. She'll join us this afternoon talking about some Trump appeals court victories in the battle over National Park historical displays. Chris, Donald Trump was in South Dakota over the weekend at Mount Rushmore. On the 3rd of July, celebrating you mentioned this last week.
The opening of the Teddy Roosevelt Library there in North Dakota, South Dakota. Which one is it? I can't ever remember where. South Dakota, I think, yeah.
My daughters have a joke about North Dakota. They say it's not a real state. They say no one really
They're all
lives
the
there.
same to me.
Yeah, Grover calls them the big square states out west. So that'll be at 5:25. And then, Chris, what's on tap for 5:45?
Tim, he's back. And he has a new radio show in New York.
Oh.
I will tell you who that is at 5:45.
I am intrigued.
Macy, this is going to surprise you. Hey,
I am intrigued.
Hey, before we go to break, also, United States soccer team got a bit of good news. Donald Trump and the Commerce Secretary intervened with FIFA, whatever the hell it's called, and our top player will play in the game tomorrow evening. So that's good news.
It's tonight.
It's
tonight. Yeah.
So he will play in that game. Go President Trump.
Very exciting. And have you seen some of the memes on this?
No.
The best one is the player that was given the red card. So you've got a picture of him arguing with the ref, and he's kind of pointing his finger at him. But the meme is they literally put a Trump card in his hand, face of Donald Trump. against the red card from the ref. So he's like, and the meme is the trump card always wins. So that's a big game tonight. And Chris, the U.S. has not gone to the quarterfinals in 23 years.
And Belgium is pissed, Tim. They put out a statement. They said that the Royal Belgian Football Association is astonished by FIFA's decision to declare suspended United States player Florian Balogun eligible to play in the USA-Belgium match. So they're a little pissed off about that.
Yeah, they don't want to play us at full potential, apparently. And the other argument I heard was that Messi, the famous Messi, he's from Argentina. Apparently, he did the exact same thing during one of his matches that the American player did. And, of course, he's Messi. He was not given a red card. So I think a lot of these red card, yellow card things are very subjective. Apparently they went back, Chris. They looked at all the videotape, and they said, yes, we made a mistake here.
And this is not the first time. The French Football Federation asked FIFA to overturn a yellow card against Michael Elise, a penalty he got in the Paraguay game. That was overturned, and British Prime Minister intervened to help FIFA from changing the time of the England-Mexico match. So FIFA put a little political pressure on FIFA, and they will relent, looks like.
Look at Chris and I. We know nothing about soccer, and we just talked for 5 minutes about it.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. Hope you all enjoy the game this evening. All right, and to help you get up to the big game, we're going to have a big show for all you all. Chris and I and Joey, we're going to be joined by Brent Sadler next, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, expert in naval warfare and advanced technology. Talk to him about China, the Middle East, Russia, and more on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Happy Monday, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More near normal heat for Tuesday. It is a little bit hotter in the upper 80s, 70 for the low, 87 for the afternoon high, but not excessive heat or humidity. That's nice. There is a 10% chance for a little spot shower, thunder shower in the afternoon to early evening. And then we do that again on Wednesday. 10% chance for a spotty shower. Otherwise, a high of 89 as it continues to heat up a little bit as the week goes on for Wednesday. That's the latest on the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Chad Hansen had to cut his 4th of July Independence Day weekend holiday a little short. That's the kind of guy he is. He makes sure that when nature calls, as it did this weekend here in the Heartland, Hansen's is going to respond and be there for you. Chad had to pack the family up a little bit early and get back to the St. Louis. Well, actually, he had to head back up to the Lake region first and then back to St. Louis. Hansen's Tree Service at hansenstree.com can help you with all of your storm tree needs. They service eastern Missouri. That means St. Louis, City of St. Louis, County of St. Louis, all of our collar counties, and we always mean Lincoln and St. Charles and Franklin and Jefferson, and they'll even go out a little further if you ask them nicely. They also take care of the folks at the lake, and boy, did the folks at the Lake of the Ozarks need a lot of help after those massive storms rolled through on 4th of July afternoon, caused a ton of damage, but Hansen's has the big boy and big girl toys to make quick work of the matter. hansenstree.com is the website you need to go to. The emergency service line is up there. That works weekends, holidays, after hours, whenever you need them, because Hansen's knows that, Mother Nature sometimes doesn't call during business hours. What does Hansen's do? Yes, they provide tree care. They can provide storm damage care. They also do green resource recycling. They do grinding and land clearing. They can help you clear out that new piece of property you buy, whether maybe you bought a piece of farm property, maybe you bought a little lake house property, whether it's a little cabin or a McMansion. They can take care of any job, big or small. I'm going to have the Hansens out. I have a tree that just got hammered by the cicadas last year, and it looks a little worse for wear. So I'm like, okay, can this thing be rehabilitated or not? Well, the Hansens arborists are going to tell me. And I hope we don't have to take it down, but if we do, we'll replace it, and the Hansens can help you with that as well. They can take out stumps. They can provide mulch. They have awesome mulch at Hansens. So much can be done online at hansenstree.com. You can order mulch online, apply for hassle-free estimates. 6 months same as cash financing for approved customers, and so much more. Tons of 5-star reviews that pop up when you hit the website. I'm watching them cycle through right now. So whatever you may need, whether it's in good times or bad, give the folks at Hanson's a holler. Look them up at hansonstree.com. That's hansonstree.com.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
News Talk STL is celebrating our 5th birthday. And we're giving away a limited edition News Talk STL America 250 t-shirts. It's exclusive, it's collectible, and it could be yours. Just head to newstalkstl.com to register. News Talk STL. Happy birthday to us, and good luck to you.
Hey, it's Susie Moore for Window World. Did you know that in just over the last 20 years, Window World of St. Louis has improved the look and thermal efficiency for over 80,000 customers in St. Louis? Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now, Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 800-GET-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800-GET-WINDOWS. They're the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Australia was given just hours warning before China launched a nuclear-capable ballistic missile with a dummy warhead in the South Pacific. China's state-owned Xinhua news agency reported the test had been carried out by one of its nuclear submarines at 12:01 p.m. today, stating it landed precisely within the designated waters, while further insisting it was not directed at any specific country or target.
429 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and as we said, Senator Talent is not here today. He is in Napa Valley. But we do have on the line with us Brent Sadler. He's a senior research fellow at Heritage. Brent, my producer tells me it's been about 3 years since you have last been on the show, and we want to welcome you back once again.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's been too long for sure.
It has. All right, Brent. I don't think it's a coincidence that in China and Russia are doing these naval exercises at the exact time that NATO is meeting in Turkey. Am I right or wrong about that?
I think that's partly true. I mean, there is always, the navies go at their own schedule to meet operational needs and, the availability of the ships and where they are in their life cycle. But certainly Beijing would do something like this for strategic messaging purposes, and certainly NATO meeting does signal that, but there's also things going afoot in the South Pacific as well, security agreements that are being signed by China as well as the Australians in the region as well, trying to push back on those very same agreements the Chinese are seeking in places like Vanuatu and Solomon Islands.
Brent, how concerned should the U.S. be about this? And is there anything that our U.S. military should be preparing for? Or should we just presume that our military knows everything they need to know about this and is very aware of what China's doing?
Well, the key thing is you have to be present to be able to get the intelligence that's required. You can't get everything from a distance to make sure that you understand the threat from hostile powers' nuclear arsenal, which what this missile is. Launched from a submarine in the South China Sea, being clear as to what the pattern of behavior is for these platforms. You got to be present in the South China Sea. And then in the South Pacific, where the missile is landing, you need to see how it maneuvers and how it operates. And so places like Kwajalein, where we have satellite tracking and even military support facilities, up in Hawaii, in American Samoa, in the South Pacific, these are places that we have to be at if we're going to be able to monitor and understand the threat more clearly. And hopefully we've got the assets our military needs. Judging by what Indo-PACOM Commander Admiral Paparo has been asking for, we still need to do a lot more.
Yeah, Brent, we've talked with Senator Talent many times, and he has warned us that the United States is getting behind in terms of our ships compared to China. But he has said that our submarines and things of that nature are way more advanced than China. With their new submarines and their new ships, how advanced are they now, and should we be worried?
Yes, this is not the time for complacency, which in fact I think has been the order of the day for multiple decades since the end of the Cold War. And our submarine force, while the submarines are and I'm a submariner, 26 years, very technically advanced, but that advantage is not guaranteed. And the Chinese are rapidly trying to close it. And so it costs a lot to maintain that edge, which is, quite frankly, an advantage that deters China more effectively than many other capabilities that we have, sadly, today, because we've let it degrade to their advantage. When it comes to surface warships, we don't have enough of them. While we may be able to edge out the Chinese one-on-one, that's not how you fight a naval war. You fight as an integrated surface action group or naval flotilla, and so do the Chinese. Add in ballistic missiles and their air force. It's the way they're going to fight. And so it's not going to be a destroyer versus destroyer. And we just don't have the numbers to fight the way we would prefer to fight against China with the cost and the risk that we would think is manageable. They've been spending a decade plus building a very massive modern Navy.
Speaking to Brent Sadler of the Heritage Foundation. Brent, I saw several interviews over the holiday weekend with retired U.S. military generals, some of the more prominent ones that you often see up on the major cable news networks, arguing that the U.S. is going to very likely have to get back to what is called full kinetic activity, otherwise known as warfare, with Iran, because Iran pretty much agreed to cease hostilities, but they didn't mean it, right? And they're not really complying with much of anything regarding the Memorandum of Understanding. They said they understood the reasons that Donald Trump wanted a pause in the action, mainly political and economic reasons, but that in order to continue to fully free the Strait of Hormuz, there's going to have to be some follow-up military activity. What would you say about those assessments? Do you agree, disagree? Where do you stand?
I think it needs to be a little bit more nuanced. I mean, we are effectively like the Godfather movies, trying to make an offer that the Iranians can't refuse. And so you can't just say goodbye and then walk out the room and then just start bombing, because you want to be able to you don't want to have to go all that distance. You're going to destroy the people you're trying to enable in Iran to take their country back or harm them unnecessarily. And the workload that we're going to have on the back end of this is going to be a lot higher. So it's better to get the Iranians to get to the right conclusion themselves and enable those that are favorable to us. And so that offer that they can't refuse, and what we haven't really done is we go all negotiations, no kinetic or no military operations, and then the Iranians do something, we go back to kinetic and then pause the negotiation. What we need to do is both at the same time. And so you can have the negotiations going on in Europe or in Oman or Doha, wherever they deign to meet, while at the same time, anytime an Iranian IRGC small boat with missiles on it or an anti-ship cruise missile battery starts moving on the coastline, anywhere on the coastline in Iran, you take it out. No questions asked. You view it as a threat. And I think that's kind of the nuance that the Iranians need to understand that there is no game they can play to string us along.
Brett, beside the obvious thing that submarines have a lot of stealth, what are submarines primarily used for in warfare, and what are their capabilities?
Yeah, for nuclear submarines, which is what our fleet is, it's to go kill other submarines. It's the apex predator in the ocean. And in the Cold War, it was to go find and kill Soviet ballistic missile submarines that were going to target American cities for destruction. That was their primary role. The secondary is our ballistic missile submarines, a second order or second strike capability as a deterrent, nuclear deterrent. And those missions are the top of the list. Behind that are things like intelligence gathering, because they are very sneaky. They can't be easily found, if ever, by an enemy. And the other part of it is providing long-range strikes like Tomahawk cruise missiles that you see time and time again launched against adversaries, most recently Iran.
Brent, how important has submarine? How important have our submarine assets been to the Middle East conflict? I saw a chart the other day showing how many of our naval assets are in that region, and it was a big chart with a lot of names of USS this, that, and the other thing. Are the submarines? Are any part of the submarine fleet there, or do we even know that because they're a little more, as you pointed out, silent and deadlier than everything else?
Yeah. Yeah, it is the silent service, so we won't know for a long time what actually they were doing. We do know in the early days of the conflict, for the first time since World War II, a U.S. submarine sank a hostile warship with a torpedo, and that was off the Sri Lanka in international waters. We also know that there were reports that cruise missiles, Tomahawks, were launched early on from U.S. submarines. We don't know which one. Could have been an SSGN, which are these big missile carriers, a repurposed ballistic missile submarine. Or an attack submarine, but they're there. If there's an aircraft carrier strike group, you can guarantee there's probably a couple submarines, not immediately nearby, but certainly in the theater, in say the Arabian Sea.
Brett, we know that drone warfare is now a huge part of modern warfare. We've seen how effective they've been for Ukraine against Russia. We saw during the war with Iran how they used drones to attack ships and to attack their neighbors. I read somewhere a few months ago that the United States has developed a technology to stop swarms of drones that basically they fire something at them and they drop from the sky. Is that technology now available? Is it still experimental? And why wasn't that used during the war?
So there's electromagnetic pulse, which was discovered during the atomic bomb testing, which basically fries all the circuitry. And during the Cold War, we used to spend a lot of money to harden all the circuits in our aircraft, ships, and headquarters, so they could weather that radiation, that radiomagnetic field pulse that would fry the circuitry. We've gotten away from that during the post-Cold War because we thought nuclear war was, of the bygone era. We're starting to rediscover that. But that same technology is being miniaturized and put on missiles and put on like guns that you sometimes see these funny-looking like guns that are used to kind of send out a pulse. This is probably what you're seeing there is a radio frequency to disrupt the signals that those drones rely on. But there are other techniques, simple things like using hawks, train a hawk to go take them out at airports. Very effective and cost-effective way to do it. Another is to basically just build out nets that you launch from a gun and you shoot and take out the drones. Or what the Russians do, they build these highways that are aligned with nets that prevent these small drones from getting in there. Doesn't really help you against a missile or the big ones that just go on a kamikaze attack. But the vast majority of these small ones, you're going to see things like fishing nets as defense.
What is PETA going to say about us using hawks against drones? Oh, my God.
I think you're not hurt. The hawk's actually kind of doing what it loves to do. And certainly as long as there's a reward with fish or small prey at the end of that, I think they're more than happy to do it.
Oh, I didn't think the hawk survived.
Oh, no, they survive. The small ones, not the big ones.
Okay.
They grab it with their claws and bring it down to the ground.
Ah, okay.
Or just take it out of control.
Got it.
Peregrine falcons love to go after other birds. Another one trained to go after these things.
Speaking of Brent Sadler, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Brent, while many of us were off for the weekend, it seems that President Trump rarely takes a moment off. And I saw this headline that caught my attention. The fact that the president held separate phone calls with Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky over the last 48 hours or so. CBS News reporting that along with many other outlets. Brent, what did you see anything that gave any indication of what might have been discussed and whether or not there is some maybe glimmer of hope that that particular conflict, which is years now in the making, might be headed towards a conclusion or not so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been notable what's been happening on the battlefield. It hasn't been in the front page news or even in page 2 or 3, but given all that's happened in Venezuela beginning in January, then into Iran till this day. And that is the Ukrainians changed their tactics and they started exacting very large casualties on the Russians. The Russians still have kind of taken a brunt force kind of approach to their frontline combat operations. And they've been losing anywhere between 30 to 50,000 soldiers a month since February. And the Russians are still trying to adapt to it. And the Ukrainians have also launched a series of very spectacular, some very large raids on St. Petersburg, Moscow, at times, politically sensitive places that are starting to take the fight to the Russian people in a way that they have not been able to do or not chosen to in the past. And I think Putin's under a lot of pressure. He just in the last 24 hours has launched a ballistic missile attack on Kyiv. They don't launch very big mass salvos. They don't have that capacity for these conventional strikes like that. But I think the Russians are starting to feel the pain. The Ukrainians have been targeting oil refining. So this is, you take the crude oil, you turn it into gas you can put in your tank or your aircraft or your commercial car, civilian cars, and it's actually having a toll on the Russian economy and the ability for them to move material as well as people, being troops, but also to keep the lights on in the factories. And so the pressure has been picking up. And so it'd be interesting to see if in that phone call, though we're not going to know for sure, at least for a few more days, whether or not Putin is receptive to finding an off-ramp.
Brent, before we let you go, is there an article there on heritage.org that you'd like to direct us to and to learn more about your area of expertise?
Well, a lot of the stuff I've been doing is focused on the maritime and the shipping and the shipbuilding, and there's hopefully a lot of that coming forward in the next few weeks in Congress with the Ships for America Act, and also from the White House with its budget, but also pretty much a national program to revitalize our shipping and shipbuilding. So there's more to come. If you read it on heritage.org, you can find all my most recent writings. Just find me in the experts list of Brent Sadler.
That's Brent Sadler, Senior Research Fellow at Heritage. He's at heritage.org, and on X, Brent D. Sadler. Brent, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the conversation.
Great, and have me back sooner than 3 years.
We will. We will. All right, 443, Chris's Corner, the real population crisis nobody wants to talk about. That's next on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More near normal heat for Tuesday. It is a little bit hotter in the upper 80s, 70 for the low, 87 for the afternoon high, but not excessive heat or humidity. That's nice. There is a 10% chance for a little spot shower, thunder shower in the afternoon to early evening. And then we do that again on Wednesday. 10% chance for a spotty shower. Otherwise, a high of 89 as it continues to heat up a little bit as the week goes on for Wednesday. That's the latest on the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story. The times I've been involved in self-censorship. Numerous times in my career.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Hey, when it comes to banking, bigger isn't always better. Sometimes what matters most is having a banker who knows your name, that understands your goals, and can actually make decisions right here in our community. That's why News Talk STL is proud to partner with Royal Banks of Missouri. For more than 60 years, Royal Banks has been serving families, businesses, and neighborhoods throughout St. Louis as an locally owned independent community bank. Whether you're looking for a mortgage, a business loan, wealth management services, or simply a better banking experience, Royal Banks delivers personalized service you just don't find at the mega banks. They've continued to invest in our region, expanding their footprint while staying committed to the communities they call home. If you're tired of feeling like just another account number, maybe it's time to bank local. Visit Royal Banks of Missouri online at royalbanksofmo.com or stop by one of their convenient locations, or you can give them a call at 314-212-1500. Royal Banks of Missouri, investing in our communities, one client at a time. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
This is Kurt Barr, Director of Elections for St. Charles County, reminding you that your vote counts.
Every polling place in St. Charles County is equipped with accessible voting systems for voters with disabilities. If you'd like to use that option, just let the election judge team know when you check in. The equipment is there so you can cast your own ballot with privacy, independence, and confidence. Every voter has the opportunity to cast a secret ballot. For official election information, visit sccmo.org/elections.
To everyone who serves and sacrifices, this one's for you. Heroes Care is giving away 1,000 suits to our heroes. Active duty, retired, guard, or reserve, military, police, fire, or EMS, just show up with your ID and a suit is yours. That's Saturday, July 18th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Heroes Care store in Gravois Village Center, Jefferson County. For those who sacrifice every day, we simply want to say thank you. Details at heroescare.org. Heroes Care, honoring those who serve.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Since 2007, the number of Americans having babies has dropped 23%, and that means not enough kids are being born to replace older workers or those that die. If this trend continues, or unless immigration levels change, the nation will have 8 million fewer residents by 2055.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
The real population crisis nobody wants to talk about. Japan's fertility rate has fallen to a record low. For the first time in modern history, fewer than 700,000 babies were born in Japan in a single year. The country's fertility rate now stands at just 1.15 children per woman, far below the 2.1 needed to maintain a stable population. Deaths outnumber births by nearly 1 million people annually, and Japan isn't alone. More than 2/3 of the world's countries now have fertility rates below replacement levels. The United States is below replacement level. Most of Europe is below replacement level. South Korea, Italy, Spain, Germany, and many others are facing the same challenge. Even America's fertility rate has fallen to a record low. Yet despite these alarming numbers, our political and cultural leaders seem reluctant to discuss the deeper causes. We're told the problem is economics. We're told it's housing costs. We're told it's child care expenses. Those facts matter, but they don't tell the whole story. The reality is that we're living through a cultural transformation unlike anything in human history. Young people are marrying later or not at all. Many spend time interacting through screens and building real-world relationships. Social media, dating apps, online entertainment, and virtual communities have increasingly replaced the face-to-face interactions that once led to courtship, marriage, and family formation. In many countries, young adults report unprecedented levels of loneliness, despite being more digitally connected than any generation before them. And then there's another factor that many politicians and media outlets are unwilling to discuss. For more than 50 years, much of the Western world has normalized abortion as a routine solution to unintended pregnancy. Regardless of where you stand politically, millions upon millions of potential births have not occurred because of abortion. In the United States alone, there have been tens of millions of abortions since Roe v. Wade in 1973. It would be intellectually dishonest to discuss declining births without acknowledging that reality. Now, abortion is not the sole cause of declining fertility, not even close. The bigger issue is that our culture increasingly treats children as optional accessories rather than blessings, marriage as a lifestyle choice rather than a social institution, and family formation as something that can always be postponed until later. But later often never comes. The result is what we're seeing today: aging populations, shrinking workforces, fewer taxpayers supporting more retirees, growing dependence on immigration to fill labor shortages, and nations increasingly worried about their long-term survival. Japan has become the poster child for this demographic crisis, but the warning signs are visible throughout the developed world. The question isn't whether declining birth rates matter. They do. The question is whether we are willing to confront the cultural forces driving them. Because no amount of government spending, tax credits, or child care subsidies can solve a problem if a society no longer values marriage, family, and children. A civilization's future depends on its willingness to create the next generation. And right now, much of the developed world is struggling to do exactly that. And that is Chris's Corner.
Mm-hmm. Culture is upstream from pretty much everything else, and there's been a huge shift in our culture, not just in the U.S., but apparently, to the point you just made, around the world.
I mean, just think about that, Tim. Japan only had 700,000 births, not even 1 million births. And they've been talking years about they have an aging population. But that's just amazing to me. They didn't even have 1 million people born in their country, and it's a country of tens of millions of people.
And another to underscore the points about declining populations and families and such, it caught me literally off guard yesterday when we went to a Catholic church in Branson for Mass, Sunday morning Mass. And there were 3 families in front of me, one to the left and 2 to the right. And they each had at least 5 or 6 kids. And you know how that would catch you off guard in today's world, because you don't see that anymore.
No, you don't.
This one family, I couldn't tell how many were the kids, because there was one that was obviously married because one of the young ladies was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So I was assuming that was, the kids looked like stair steps.
Yeah.
But the oldest son was married because he had a wedding ring on, and so did the lady standing next to him who was pregnant. So I think that family had maybe 6 kids, and then, okay, they're already starting the third generation, which is great. And then to my right, there was 2 younger families. Like, these were all little kids, and they were running all over the place. That's why I couldn't quite count them, because they weren't sitting still very much. But it was kind of heartwarming to see, because you do not see large families, even amongst Catholics, right? That was the old joke.
Yeah.
Irish and Italian Catholics, they have a bazillion kids. But I was glad to see that, Chris. Maybe there is a little bit of a reawakening as we're seeing in the younger generations with a lot of things. There better be, or we're going to have trouble running the economies of tomorrow.
I'll tell you another population that has a lot of children, too, and I see this because I live in a Orthodox Jewish community in U City, and you see Orthodox Jews. They have 5, 6, 7 children as well. So we need Orthodox Jews and Catholics. I guess they're going to replenish America's population.
We could do worse.
We
right?
could do worse.
And remember when we were in Israel? Remember what they told us over there?
Yeah.
It's a matter of survival. We were like, wow, you all, like, a lot of them said, hey, I've got 3 kids, I've got 4 kids, I've got 5 kids. We're like, I didn't know that Israelis were repopulating at such a clip. They were like, for us, it's a matter of national security.
Yeah, it's national security, and it's just part of their culture as well, because Jews make up less than 1% of the world population. So that's something that's been within their culture, is to make sure you have a lot of children so you can carry, Jewishness, if that's the word, forward, because there's not a lot of us in the world. Segue into another big story this week, Tim. The murderer, Tyler Robinson, who allegedly, let me put it that way, allegedly murdered Charlie Kirk. He is having a week-long preliminary, I guess they call it a trial or a hearing. This week. He is open to the death penalty for this case. Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, and his family are going to be in the court this week. That should be very interesting television, because it will be televised.
Oh, that part's going to be televised, huh?
Yeah.
That'll be very interesting. This may be one of the most watched courtroom dramas since the O.J. Simpson trial.
And I just hate, too, because you're going to have all the conspiratorial people out there who claim that Tyler Robinson didn't murder Charlie Kirk, that it was the government or some other forces.
Did you hear the latest?
No.
The latest conspiracy, and I only knew this because somebody told me on a Signal chat, and I was like, what? The latest conspiracy theory, Chris, is there was an explosive device in Charlie Kirk's microphone, and that's what killed him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does an explosion make blood squirt out of your neck, like from a projectile?
And why has no one mentioned that as far as the forensic materials that were gathered at the scene?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, everybody's in on it, right? Everybody's always in on it. Isn't it amazing, Chris, how everybody's in on it except for some dude in Sri Lanka on the internet, Yeah.
Exactly. All right, Tim, what are we going to be talking about on Speaker Stump Speech?
The land of the free because of the brave. Chris, I have some anecdotes from this last weekend, specifically I have a story from a congressman I never heard of. Oh. An Ohio congressman penned a short piece about what he thinks is great about America on the 250th. It's a very short piece. It's very simple, but I think he hits all the points that we may take for granted about the great nation we live in.
You know, speaking of elections, I'm getting worried about this Texas race, Tim. You remember last week I showed you the poll, Texas poll, that showed that Tallarico and Paxton were tied 47-47. Well, I got an email today from the Paxton campaign saying that we are tied and that we need you to chip in some money for this campaign. Chuck Schumer feels that he's got a potential Senate flip, and so we need you to chip in. It's kind of ominous when the candidate admits that he's tied, and for him to be tied with this far left radical guy in Texas makes you a little worried.
I hope that's just a campaign ploy to get you to send him $25.
I hope so too.
Yes.
All right, and then we're going to speak with Susie Moore. She's the editor at redstate.com. We'll talk about Trump scores and appeals victory. And at the end of the show, he's back. He has a radio show in New York, and I'll tell you exactly who that is at 5:45. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
There's something magical about walking into your backyard and knowing your family is completely safe and secure. Hi, I'm Sean Long, owner of STL Fenceworks. That's the feeling my team and I have been creating for metro area families for more than 50 years. Whether you're adding your first fence or finally creating the outdoor sanctuary you've always wanted, we offer premium vinyl and stunning ornamental options, all designed around your family's specific needs and lifestyle. While other companies struggle with supply delays and rising costs, we've always proudly used all American-made materials, which means better pricing and faster installation for you. Our experienced craftsmen exemplify our motto, your satisfaction is our passion. From Warrenton to Wildwood, your neighbors trust us because we live here too. And we care about your project as much as you do. Right now is the golden time to build with flexible financing options and a commitment to completing your fence on time and on budget. Visit stlfenceworks.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019 94.1.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. President Trump has inaugurated his Trump accounts for children under the age of 18 that will give them a financial head start with government seed money and contributions from family, employers, or charities.
The new program to start saving for your kids went live on July 4th. The Treasury Department says so far, more than 6 million Trump accounts have been opened for children under the age of 18. The president sounding pleased.
So many of these children are going to be involved with the Trump account. They're going to watch their account grow. They're going to watch the country grow. They're going to be reading the newspapers. They'll want to go to the financial pages.
Laura Winters reporting.
In Utah today, prosecutors began laying out their evidence against Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Judge Tony Graff gave remarks before the proceedings acknowledging emotions are running high.
The court recognizes that this hearing may invoke emotion from everyone, and the court understands the human nature of that, but also it's important that this courtroom is orderly. Spectators shall not wear or display any pins, buttons, signs, clothing, or photographs expressing support for or against any person related to this case or the status of this case as a capital offense.
Kirk's widow, along with his parents, were in attendance at the hearing. Russia has launched a massive missile and drone attack on Ukraine, killing at least 22 people. The assault highlights gaps in Ukraine's air defenses, particularly the need for more U.S.-made Patriot interceptor missiles. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 155 points. The Nasdaq rose 288. The S&P advanced 54. Oil near $69 a barrel. More at townhall.com.
With things moving fast to resolve the situation in the Middle East, the headlines may change, but the fundamentals haven't. America's debt continues to climb, and uncertainty still hangs over the global economy. That's why investors continue turning to one asset that has stood the test of time: physical gold and silver. For generations, gold has been viewed as a safe haven asset during periods of geopolitical tension and market volatility. That's why Advantage Gold wants to send you a free gold investment guide valued at $49, plus a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's acclaimed book, Our Dollar, Your Problem, when you call 800-900-8000. Discover why central banks are buying gold, why many Americans are diversifying with precious metals, and how a tax and penalty-free rollover into physical gold and silver may fit into your retirement strategy. Don't wait until the next crisis dominates the headlines. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000 right now. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More near normal heat for Tuesday. It is a little bit hotter in the upper 80s, 70 for the low, 87 for the afternoon high, but not excessive heat or humidity. That's nice. There is a 10% chance for a little spot shower, thunder shower in the afternoon to early evening. And then we do that again on Wednesday. 10% chance for a spotty shower, otherwise a high of 89 as it continues to heat up a little bit as the week goes on for Wednesday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colony.
Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Let's party! Wait, oh, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Scott, can you believe it's already been more than a decade since the Queen of Carpets sold flooring to St. Louis area contractors?
I know, but I don't have to be a king to offer contractors today's lowest prices.
Yes, contractors owe it to their customers and themselves to shop at Best Buy Flooring for the largest in-stock selection of carpet, carpet tile, sheet vinyl, laminate, hardwood, luxury vinyl plank, and luxury vinyl tile.
Plus 3 convenient locations, North County, South County, and Metro East.
Open 7 days a week.
Best flooring, best selection, Best Buy. Best Buy Flooring.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
I listen to News Talk STL on the app driving to work.
Download the News Talk STL app.
You gotta get the News Talk STL app.
Love the app. Can listen anywhere in St. Louis.
And listen anytime.
News Talk STL right on my phone.
Anywhere.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Some within your party who are saying things like we should be ashamed of America. The government should seize the means of production, that we maybe in some way deserved 9/11. What do you do with those factions of your party?
Well, first I say, what the representative was saying is powerful and correct in the idea that making sure that we have an economy that works for everybody is something that is powerful. A lot of the stuff that I'm hearing about the labels and all this kind of stuff, I'm going to be very honest with you, it's a very Washington game, because for people inside of communities that I'm in every single day, people just want candidates that actually working and getting things done.
Yeah, Governor Wes Moore there, Chris, from Maryland, saying, oh, all that crazy communist stuff, yeah, they don't really mean that. That's just how they're trying to get elected these days. Just ignore the nut jobs over there in the corner.
I was on Newsmax on Saturday on the Saturday Agenda program with Rob Astorino, and my fellow panelist, Tim, was a guy who was with Occupy Democrats.
Oh.
And he tried to make that same argument. He was saying that, all of these people may be out of the mainstream of the party, but, they're not going to have any influence once they're in Congress. And he made the equivalent that these people are just like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and that, she didn't have any influence. And I said, yeah, but the difference is that these communist, socialist Democrats that are coming into office, you've got mainstream Democratic leaders that are afraid to disavow them and are claiming some of the things that they want. That is the difference. Marjorie Taylor Greene was kind of fringe. She came in, but the Republican Party wasn't following her every last word and following her agenda. The Democrats are following the Democratic Socialists of America's agenda, and that's the difference.
It's a great point. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's gone.
Yeah.
She retired. She gave up. She went home. AOC, what are they going to say when it's Speaker Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senate Majority Leader Bernie Sanders? I guess the crazy commie socialism will then be real. And, Chris, at that point, it'll be too late for the Democratic Party. They're just sitting. They're scared. So they're sitting idly by, and with the exception of John Fetterman, nobody's really pushing back. And even Wes Moore there is basically saying, oh, that stuff's not real. It's very real. One of them is running one of the largest cities now in the United States of America, Mondami.
Or you could have Senator AOC
could have that.
And Senate Majority Leader Bernie Sanders. AOC endorsed the radical candidate up in the Michigan Senate race, Saeed, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's a total Democratic socialist. Big news out of that race is one of the candidates dropped out, who was trying to find that middle lane between far left and moderate. She dropped out because she didn't have a chance. Democrats had been urging her for weeks to do that. They are really afraid that this Syed gentleman may win this primary. And I'm sorry, Tim. We saw Democratic Socialists win in New York, pretty blue. We saw Democrat Socialists win in Colorado, pretty blue. I don't see a Democratic Socialist being elected a senator from Michigan. Michigan is a border state, a purple state. I don't see Michiganders putting a guy like that in the Senate.
Yeah, not yet. I think what people are worried about, though, is we never thought they'd be actually elected anywhere, and now they've made inroads. And even though the polling so far shows that for the majority of America, we oppose socialism, that's true. You just get really worried. Look, it used to be something we used to make fun of. We never thought that there would be a squad and a crew in the Congress. We never thought that Bernie Sanders would be so successful in moving the Democratic Party. So I think everybody's just worried, like, okay, is this eventually going to end? Is somebody going to wake up and go, okay, we're done with the experiment now. Yes, communism and socialism are failures. Or are they going to keep making progress, which is the worry?
They've changed their tactic. They're not out on the rooftop shouting, workers of the world unite. They're talking about health care. They're talking about affordability. They're talking about rent and young people being able to buy houses. Those type of issues appeal to people that are on the margins, and that's why they're winning. They're not saying they're totally democratic, socialist mantra. They're trying to soften what they're doing, and that's why I think they're having some success.
Yeah, Mondami is an incredibly skillful politician. You may not agree with any of his policies, and I would bet nobody in our audience does, but you cannot take away from him that he is incredibly clever with the way he describes what he's doing. Chris, yeah, they're staying away from all the hot button socially conservative or socially social issues. They're staying away from all the social issues. And like you said, they're appealing to pocketbook. They're saying, oh, well, if we just try it a different way, then everyone in the country will be fine. And they're not saying by taking the means of production and nationalizing everything. They're not saying how they're going to do it.
Yeah, and Steve Bannon is where he said Republicans are not taking this threat serious enough. He said, quote, they campaign as anti-establishment. It's very smart. They're not really even campaigning on Trump. He gets a mention, but they're very much like the Tea Party. I like old Breitbart. They're against the Democratic establishment, and that's why they're being successful.
Indeed. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. We are about to embark on our next 5 years. The country celebrated 250. We're celebrating 5. And in order to properly celebrate, we're giving away gifts every weekday in July. Every winner that we draw will receive a limited edition America 250 News Talk STL t-shirt. They're nice t-shirts. Chris wears his often.
I love mine.
I wear mine a lot. They're absolutely fantastic. They're great cotton.
Collector's item.
Yeah, they're really nice. Red, white, and blue lettering. All you have to do, very simple. You go to newstalkstl.com to enter. No crazy games to play, sounds to listen to, times to listen. Just submit your information. And if you say something nice about producer Joey V, you might get an edge on winning. Right, Joey?
Of course. I'm sending out emails right now to the first few winners, actually.
Oh.
And we've already got, 50 people that submitted entries from last week, and it's all day, every day. Submit over and over and over. I don't care.
Yeah, fantastic. July 19th is our official 5th anniversary birthday celebration, and we're going to be celebrating all month long with all of you all. Thank you so much for making us the number one source for live and local conservative talk. Just 5 short years. Chris, I went to our Facebook page the other day.
Yeah.
It has ticked up from 6,300 followers to now 6,400 followers. Just in the space of a week, we ticked up another. Hey, folks, you know what would be a really great birthday present for us? Get us to 10,000 before the end of the year. Before the end of the year.
I thought you were going to say by the end of the month. I'm
Probably
like, that
not,
may be a little aggressive.
Yeah, probably not going to happen. But you could help us in our 5th year. If we could hit 10,000, that would be remarkable. The fact that we've got almost 6,500 followers in barely 5 years of existence, that's pretty impressive for a little radio station that did not exist. We're a big radio station now. We have 6 live and local shows every day, incredible weekend programming. Thank you all very much for making us number one for live and local conservative talk.
I concur.
All right, we've got Susie Moore coming up after the Speaker's stump speech, and then Chris is going to tell us about the fact that he's back.
Do you have any clue who I'm talking about?
I don't, and he has a new radio show.
He has a new radio show.
In New York City.
I'm guessing Don Imus, even though he died in 2019.
No, not Don Imus.
That's going to be a great segment indeed. Then we turn it over to Larry Connors USA. Tonight, U.S. versus Belgium in the big football match, as the Europeans call it, the big soccer game tonight. The World Cup continues. The U.S. playing for only its 3rd trip to the quarterfinals.
Go USA.
Very amazing indeed. It's going to be a wild game, and we'll tell you all about it tomorrow. All right, how about without further ado, we do today's Speaker Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Today's a historic day as we begin America's 250th year. We're launching what's called the Trump accounts. You've been hearing about it. And this was something that was made possible because of the great, big, beautiful bill. Otherwise, you couldn't do it. We got it approved. Ted Cruz is here, and he helped us a lot. And I want to thank you, Ted, and to ensure that every American child is born with a head start and a fair shot at the American dream, because by the time they're 18, they could have a lot of money. They go up with the market. Think what would have happened if we invested $1,000 in an account, even Brad and Mike, Susan, if we invested $1,000 in an account a year ago. It's like would have doubled. And because the market, we're riding the hottest stock market in history.
And the president, who is, he's sometimes known for some braggadocious behavior. He's absolutely right there. The market just hit an all-time high again. I think this is the 4th or 5th time in Trump 2.0 that the market has crested its previous historic mark. The market now over 53,000. And Donald Trump is right. I mean, look, despite the fact that the guy, you may or may not like the tweets, you may or may not like the attitude, he's right when it comes to a lot of things. And he's right about the compound value of money. How about that? How about instead of giving our money to the government to do Lord knows what with, mainly to waste and pilfer away, that the government gives us just a little bit of seed money for our kids, for our next generation, for our future. And the compound value of money is really something that every child should learn very early on, and that's the whole purpose of the Trump accounts. Yes, people could literally have hundreds of thousands of dollars for their kids by the time they hit 18 if they properly seed those with just a little bit of money every year. If you look at the history of the Dow Jones, going back to its inception, it is a hockey stick line of a diagonal climb. Americans now have one of the highest GDPs per capita in the world, even compared to communist China, which is the second largest economy after us. They pale in comparison. I heard the stat today. If you take the median, for the average American, we are at around $90,000 per capita per American in our population, right? You know the Chinese are only at $14,000 per capita? That's amazing. It's because in China, the government owns everything, not the people. We are a wealthy people. Yes, we have our poor. Yes, we have our homeless. Yes, we have our mentally ill. Yes, we have those that we need to continue to help, but we are able to help them because we also have arguably one of the world's largest social safety nets in the country, too. So, title of today's speaker's stump speech, Land of the Free because of the Brave. Yes, we hear that phrase often, and most think immediately of our military, as we should, because they are the bravest, right? They are the bravest Americans. They're the ones that have the most courage, that give the most as far as self-sacrifice. But Americans are full. America is full of brave people. Donald J. Trump is a brave American. The guy's literally been assassinated almost 3 times that we're aware of, and probably many more than that. You all, everyone who's listening to us right now, you're a brave American. If you ever speak your mind and stand up for American patriotism, American values, the reason our country was founded in the first place, you're a brave American. We're all brave Americans in many, many, many different ways. I found a little op-ed today from a brave American. I don't know this fella. He happens to be a congressman. There's 435 of them when they're all fully seated. So it's not unusual for many of them not to be household names, even though that is an incredibly brave thing to do, to run for office, to try to become a congressperson in a congressional district, which is on average almost 800,000 voters. You have to convince 50% of plus one of them who are voting to vote for you. And I found this little piece in the, due to the wonders of the internet, it's good for some things. I found this in the Cincinnati Enquirer. This fella is named Dave Taylor. He's a congressman from Claremont County. He represents Ohio's 2nd Congressional District. And it's a short little op-ed, so let me read you some highlights from it. And I thought that the congressman encapsulated why America is still the greatest country on earth. And I don't think this is any kind of a brag as well. I think it's largely factual. Now, does that mean that we should be a selfish nation? No, and we're not. We're also, even though we say we're the greatest nation, I think we're also the most generous nation. We're the most giving nation. We often run into harm's way around the planet when other countries couldn't give a rip. We shouldn't be the world's policeman. We can't solve everybody's problems. But when the world is under siege, like it was in World War I, like it was in World War II, like it was in other conflicts, like it is now in the Middle East, sometimes America has to be activated, and Americans always answer the call, whether you serve in the armed forces or whether you're part of the support structure. The congressman says in 1775, James Allen, a loyalist during the American Revolution, wrote in his diary, quote, "Many thinking people believe that America has seen its best days." Isn't that funny? Even back before the country was officially founded, there were people saying that America was already done. And if you look at quotes through the generations, there were quotes on our 50th anniversary of our country, our 100th, our 150th, the bicentennial in 1976, where people said America's best days are behind it. America's over. America's a failure. We're saying it right now, right? Some people are. Some people are saying, oh, look at the rise of communism. Look at our national debt. Look at our divisiveness. America's over. They've basically been declaring the end of America since before America began, as James Allen did in 1775. The congressman goes on to say that Allen, like all of America's doubters since, was wrong. Since that time, our nation has expanded to the West, cured diseases, ended slavery, fostered the best economy in history, defeated totalitarianism around the globe, created the interstate highway system, put a man on the moon, tore down the Berlin Wall, connected the world to the internet, brought terrorists to justice, and we still remain the world's beacon of hope and freedom for all. That's why people literally risk life and limb to try to come here. And now, 250 years after the birth of our nation, America's momentum is back. While we've had our fair share of ups and downs, we're once again the most dominant country in the world thanks to the leadership of President Trump and congressional Republicans. Just 18 months into the president's second term, hundreds of thousands of new jobs have been created. Real wages are up $1,400 on average, and over $10 trillion of investment is being pumped back into the American economy. Additionally, thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, tax refunds were 11% higher, putting more money back in the pockets of more Americans. Our country is embracing law and order again, deporting illegal immigrants, fighting fraud, and others, protecting tax dollars and American families from crime. To that end, the congressman says he was proud to see his bill, the Deporting Fraudsters Act, pass the House this past March. His bill would hold illegal immigrants accountable by making the act of defrauding the United States government or stealing benefits intended for taxpayers a deportable offense. That sounds pretty reasonable. This is common sense, yet 186 of his Democratic colleagues voted against the bill. Not all of them, but a big chunk of them. Congress has also made progress on critical legislation, including the Farm Bill, Surface Transportation Reauthorization, and many other such priorities. As we celebrate our nation's birthday, the congressman says that he wants us all to reflect on the work we've done, the honor of living in this great nation, the blessings we've all had as being part of this ongoing American experiment, which has lasted 250 years and is heading towards its 500th. The words declared to the world 250 years ago, we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men created equal, endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. They didn't just change the history of our country, they actually changed the history of the world. In the long history of the world, despotism and tyranny are far more common than freedom. That's why the American system, the Declaration of Independence, are so important. That unleashed a revolution in human freedom that allowed millions of people around the globe to prosper and live with dignity. No other country has lifted more families out of poverty or freed more individuals from tyranny than the United States of America. Our nation is still that shining city upon a hill where all dreams are possible and where we all should pledge our sacred honor to continuing to make this greatest country on earth continue to be one for our children and grandchildren. The land of the free because of the brave. And that's the Speaker's Stump Speech for today.
Greatest country on earth. There's no other place on earth I would rather live. And those who don't like being here to talk about all the country's warts, I think those are people that never achieved their American dream and feel that they can achieve their American dream. So the next best option is to just put the country down. But anybody can make it in this country if you got enough grit and fortitude.
Indeed.
I truly believe that.
Could not agree more. And if you don't think that's true, go somewhere else and just check it out briefly, and you'll come running home quickly. Exactly. Indeed. All right, Chris, we're going to talk to Susie Moore next. She's, of course, our intrepid co-host of the morning show with Mike Ferguson. She's the host of Red State Radio. She's got a ton of great articles up at redstate.com that we're going to discuss, including Donald Trump's scoring an appeals court victory in the battle over National Park historical displays. What is that all about? You'll find out next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More near normal heat for Tuesday. It is a little bit hotter in the upper 80s, 70 for the low, 87 for the afternoon high, but not excessive heat or humidity. That's nice. There is a 10% chance for a little spot shower, thunder shower in the afternoon to early evening. And then we do that again on Wednesday. 10% chance for a spotty shower. Otherwise, a high of 89 as it continues to heat up a little bit as the week goes on for Wednesday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News, analysis, opinion.
I want to see people go to jail. I want to see people pay the price for abusing taxpayer dollars. And I think the American people are sick and tired of it.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Speaking of great Americans, let me tell you all about Correll Roofing Co. and Curtis Correll, the founder of Correll Roofing Co. You can find them online at CorrellRoofingCo.com. That's 2 R's and 2 L's, CorrellRoofingCo.com. They are a fantastic roofing company. Curtis Correll, the founder of Correll Roofing Co., has over 20 20 years of experience in the business. He's entering his third decade as a roofing specialist in this region. He's been up on more roofs in his lifetime than many of us probably see. And Curtis Carell has the experience and know-how, along with his entire team, to make sure that your job gets done right the first time. Are you worried about the storms we've had this spring and summer? Well, you probably have much reason to, because they've been pretty ferocious. Do you know what to look for on your roof? Most of us homeowners don't, right? That's why you should get a specialist up on your roof who can tell you almost immediately whether your roof has had wear and tear damage, hail damage, wind damage, any kind of storm damage, and that would be Carell Roofing Company. They're at CarellRoofingCo.com. They will assist you from the very beginning of your project. In fact, if you've got like a hole in your roof, like if it's obvious it's damaged, they'll get out there right away. They'll tarp your roof, and there'll be no fee for that, and then they'll work with you on replacement. They also do siding and gutters. Yes, they do roofing, siding, and gutters. They do the whole thing. You don't have to call 3 separate companies. You can do it all through Carell Roofing Company. And they're local, and they're independently owned, and they're family owned. I would not want to go to anyone else when you're dealing with something like a major roofing, siding, or gutter problem, because you don't want to deal with somebody who's fly-by-night that makes you all these promises and then you never see him again. Curtis Carell and his company are based right here in the county of St. Charles. They service the entire region, and you should get a hold of them today. If you have any questions at all about your roofing, your siding, or your gutters, they'll come out, they'll check things out, give you a free estimate, and then if you decide to go with them, they'll work with your insurance company from beginning to end, and they'll be there long after the work is done to make sure it was completely done expertly and correctly. Carell Roofing Company. They can be found 24/7 at CarellRoofingCo.com. That's CarellRoofingCo.com.
Let's get real. Here's the truth about eliminating Missouri's income tax.
I'm here with Dennis Ganal, the founder and CEO of Mo Tax Relief Now. So, Dennis, let's talk seniors. Why should you seniors vote yes on Amendment 5?
Well, because Social Security, public pensions, and capital gains are already exempt from the Missouri income tax. But future politicians can always change that law. The best way to protect retirement income permanently is to phase out the income tax itself.
Okay, so that's about policy, but how does this affect our families? Like for seniors, we're talking grandparents maybe. How does this affect you?
Well, because too many of our children and grandchildren leave Missouri for states like Tennessee, which have better opportunities and lower taxes. Amendment 5 helps Missouri become more competitive so future generations can stay, work, and raise their families here. Axe the tax. Vote yes on Amendment 5 and keep your money.
Learn more at afpmissouri.com. This Susie Moore segment brought to you by Harpo's Bar and Grill in Chesterfield. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack, and you may find yourself in another part of the world, and you may find yourself.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people that I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
Here she is, the co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor, as well at redstate.com. She knows all the news that you need to know. We're going to talk to her today about so many things, including, Susie, the latest bombshells from Maine regarding the embattled candidacy of Graham Plattner. He's been under fire for months. And, Susie, it's never a good sign, is it, when the candidate unequivocally denies the allegations, but then says, we're going to reflect on the best path forward. Interesting indeed, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds, I mean, I think most people that are attuned to this stuff, they hear that and they think, oh, well, we know what's coming next.
Yeah, because why didn't he do that with all the other allegations? He just kind of not laughed them off, or kind of blew them off and said they were all false. But this particular allegation, he says, we're going to pause the campaign for a minute. I think that speaks volumes.
It does. It probably is because that this woman now has gone on the record, and she clearly is not a Republican operative. Which the other named accuser, who didn't have her allegations weren't quite as serious as this either, but she also was known as a Republican Politico kind of person. So there was the thought that was basically just partisanship playing in a role there. And it's pretty hard to make that argument here. It sounds like this woman's description of what happened is pretty detailed. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of smoke around this guy for there not to be fire. And they've only got a week to figure out if they're going to have him drop out and try and replace him with somebody. So I hear Kamala Harris is looking for a gig. Maybe she'll move to Maine.
She knows how to come in and screw up a campaign about 100 days out,
Yeah,
right, Susie? So,
exactly.
Susie, I'm not familiar with Maine, state of Maine election law. So there is an opportunity still, but it sounds like it's a very small window whereby they could try to replace Graham Plattner.
Yes. Yeah, they have until next Monday.
Wow. Woo, that would be pretty wild.
And speak on Susan Collins. My gosh, she has to be the luckiest politician I've ever seen in my life. She's been in office for 30 years. She represents Maine. She's kind of out of the mainstream of most Maine voters, but she just somehow seems to survive every election.
Well, I think she's very wisely positioned herself all along. First of all, as a moderate, as a Republican, she has more leverage with that angle. And also she's got, she's high ranking on the Appropriations Committee.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big leadership position. And I think through all these years, she's pretty well kept herself out of the scandal spotlight. And so, I think incumbents generally enjoy an advantage anyway, unless they're doing something just crazy to screw things up. And we see that play out in Maine over and over again with Susan Collins.
Susie, originally we were going to kick things off for this Graham Plattner bombshell. We were going to kick things off with you about Donald Trump scoring an appellate court victory. Susie, it seems like every single day there's either a Trump victory or a Trump loss in some court somewhere in our land. I mean, it's just been lawfare to the extreme, right? In Trump 2.0.
Right.
Well, this time he's won a victory regarding something that I didn't even know was being fought over, and that's National Park historical displays. What's this all about?
Right. So that was on Friday, and that same day he did have a loss as well from the Fifth Circuit, so it was kind of a wash. But the win came from an appellate court victory out of, I want to say it was the First Circuit, which is kind of funny because usually the Fifth Circuit's more favorable, and they gave him a negative outcome, and then he got a positive one that day from the First Circuit. Basically, this has to do with, he issued an executive order back sometime last year. It was titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. And it basically called on the National Park Service to go through and review their displays and their signage and stuff and make sure that it hadn't been, redone in a let's go all woke and revise history kind of way. And so several of them have been taken down while they're being reviewed or they're, in the process, that sort of thing. So, of course, he got sued over it. But the appellate court said, no, they didn't rule on the merits. They just said the lower court, granted the plaintiff's injunction, but the appellate court said we're going to stay that injunction while this plays out. So it's a procedural win, but it is a win.
Susie, the White House apparently is going to get a new helipad for the new Marine One. It's a Sikorsky aircraft. Apparently, these helicopters tear up the lawn pretty good. It sounds like a reasonable thing to put a heliport on there. But Lockheed Martin, which owns Sikorsky aircraft, are paying for this helipad and it costs between $5 and $6 million. Should that be an issue? Even though they have business before the government, of course, as a defense contractor. Is it okay that they're paying for this helipad?
I don't know necessarily why it wouldn't be. I mean, it would. Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to look at it from a legal standpoint, but I'm not really sure. It's like the reversal. It's not about whether or not taxpayer dollars should be expended, and I think this is, as you pointed out, a pretty reasonable expenditure either way. So I'm not sure what the negative would be of them agreeing to foot the bill, unless somehow they're saying that $5 or $6 million is going to sway more business their way.
Yeah, I think that's what some people would say.
I mean, in relative to defense expenditures, I'm not really sure I see that, but I'm not saying there might not be something there. Sure. I don't see it right at first blush.
Got it.
Well, Susie, you mentioned the other decision that was made last Thursday or Friday as well, with the Fifth Circuit dealing the Trump DOJ a setback on a mandatory immigration detention. Susie, in addition to all the lawsuits, it seems like there's a bazillion lawsuits on immigration. It tells you something when the left is fighting so hard on illegal immigration, doesn't it? But tell us about this Fifth Circuit decision and what we're dealing with this time.
Yeah, it's confusing because there's so many different angles to an aspect of immigration law, and we've seen some Supreme Court decisions on some of them, and so this has to do with whether or not people who have been in the country illegally, in other words, they're not stopped at the border, they're already here, and whether, if they're then picked up, whether they can be detained without a bond hearing. So without getting too much into the weeds, it just basically has to do with how long illegal aliens can be detained without a bond hearing. And the Fifth Circuit found, they have due process rights that say it can't be like an exorbitant amount of time. This is one of those that different circuits are ruling different ways, so it's going to end up before the Supreme Court. Probably next term we'll be seeing a case on this one.
Susie, of course, this past weekend was the Independence Day holiday, and as you know and our audience know, people tend to act a fool during the 4th of July holiday, something that happens. The city of St. Louis trying to curtail that by having a curfew for youth. 41 youth were arrested over the weekend. We had an incident up in North County after a pool party let out. 100 youths were acting a fool at a North County Quick Trip. We had police had the fire on two 17-year-olds. They were injured. You guys have a story on Redport about Newport drops the hammer on July 4th rioters. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think this is just a situation where, people got out of hand, and unlike some of the bluer enclaves in that particular jurisdiction, the authorities were like, nope, we're not having it, and they lowered the boom, and they, basically just like with the curfew that's being imposed here, it's like, we're not going to play that game. We've done this. This is not acceptable, and so there are going to be consequences. And it is kind of refreshing to see that as opposed to the usual where people are just allowed to run wild and they don't face any consequences.
Speaking with Susie Moore, a deputy managing editor, RedState.com, co-host Mike Ferguson of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Susie, are you following World Cup soccer at all? Do you care?
I am a little bit. Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not a huge soccer person, but I think it's kind of hard to escape the enthusiasm and the fun that we've been seeing as as the tournament's been played here. The fans getting into it, the people who are visiting from other countries being so enthusiastic. I did go and watch the game Thursday. And that was fun. And of course, obviously tonight's the big game against Belgium. And then there's all the controversy about the red card and the suspension of the red card and yada, yada, yada. But it's fun. And I have to commend the people. And I think, this was originally awarded during President Trump's first presidency. Someone had the foresight to recognize that having it here, right at the same time as our 250th birthday would be a good thing. And it has been.
Mm-hmm. It has, indeed.
Susie, the alleged murderer of Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson, is having his hearing this week in Utah. Erica Kirk and the Kirk family are expected to attend. What should we see this week, and what are you expecting this week with this hearing?
I think mostly what we're going to see is just some, the preliminary rulings before the case actually goes to trial that has to do with, what evidence can come in, what's going to be excluded, all the preliminary stuff that the lawyers have to kind of get sorted out with the court before they actually start taking, presenting the case to a jury. And there's a lot of, interesting little twists to the evidence in this case. There's issues, obviously, about one of the big things has been whether there'll be cameras in the courtroom, that sort of thing. So this is kind of the chance for the parties in the court to get all of that stuff hashed out before the trial actually goes off.
Why is this hearing going to be televised but an actual trial won't, do you think?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if the judge has spelled out his reasoning. I know he's really wrestled with whether, there's obviously a lot of public interest here, and I think he's trying to balance that while also not allowing it to become a spectacle. And so I don't know if he spelled out the reason for why he was making a distinction. The one thing, obviously, that's different when you're talking about a hearing versus a trial is that you don't have the jurors present for a hearing. This is just the court meeting with the parties and ruling on things. So that could be playing a role in that.
Indeed. Well, Susie, we know you all at redstate.com will be closely following that trial because you do such a great job with all of your courtroom Legal Eagle coverage, and we know you'll be talking about it as well on Mike Ferguson in the Morning. We'll listen to you tomorrow morning, as always.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great evening.
You too. Thanks.
You as well. She's at SmoozyQ on Twitter X. RedState.com is where you find all things Red State.
And actually had a chance to listen to Red State Radio over the weekend. I'm not usually in the car on Sundays. I'm usually chilling in the home. I was out and about and heard the show, a great show. So I would admonish people to listen to Red State Radio, Susie, on Sundays.
Many people may not realize that even the weekend shows are podcasted. We podcast every program here, whether it runs Monday through Friday or over the weekends. So if you find a show you like over the weekends, but you're busy, oftentimes on the weekends, you can just listen to it after it airs, and you just find those podcasts wherever you download podcasts. Tim Jones and Chris Arps show is available as a podcast, and so is every single show here at News Talk STL Nation. Thank you so much for listening to us, no matter how you listen to us. We'll be back with one final segment, then we'll hand you off to Larry Connors, USA. Chris is going to tell us who is back.
He's back.
And who has a new radio show in New York City.
We got competition, Tim.
Indeed. All of that and more when we return on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More near normal heat for Tuesday. It is a little bit hotter in the upper 80s, 70 for the low, 87 for the afternoon high, but not excessive heat or humidity. That's nice. There is a 10% chance for a little spot shower, thunder shower in the afternoon to early evening. And then we do that again on Wednesday. 10% chance for a spotty shower. Otherwise, a high of 89 as it continues to heat up a little bit as the week goes on for Wednesday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Enjoy the Independence Day weekend. Have a good time. Watch the fireworks. Be with your family. Kenny and I will see you 9 o'clock on Monday.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, Dad, what causes drains to clog?
Grease, hair, soap scum, and tree roots.
Tree roots?
This town has old pipes and big trees. They find each other.
They grow inside pipes?
They bust into pipes.
Whoa.
Once they're in, the water stops flowing.
Can we fix it?
The big green grasser machine can fix any clog.
Green is always grasser at grasserhomeservices.com.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Lost my shape. Trying to act casual.
We can't see the ball, JJ says. Now it's getting to the point where a play is going to be effective. I think the infielders are starting to say we shouldn't be on the field at this point. I mean, you have weather delays, you have rain delays when the conditions get unplayable.
5:47 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and a fall game at Wrigley Field in the summer time of all times, of all places. That could be a very dangerous situation, trying to play football or play baseball with smog around. I hate to get hit by a 100 miles per hour ball.
Part of those big storms that rolled across the heartland on Saturday afternoon that ended up affecting even Washington, D.C., huge storm fronts, and it dropped the temperature so dramatically that I guess, there was smoke on the water, so to speak, off of the Great Lakes.
If my memory serves me correctly, I think there was an NFL game a few years ago that was a fog bowl game in Chicago at Soldier Field, if I'm right. I remember they were still trying to play, and you could barely see the field. But I think there was a fog game at Wrigley Field, so maybe or at Chicago Soldier Stadium is the name of it. So maybe that's something that happens there in Chicago.
Well, they won't have to worry about it anymore, right? Because they're now going to be the Indiana Bears or whatever they're going to be.
That's true. All right, you've been waiting all show for this. He's back, and he has a new radio show in New York City. Tim, Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer turned opponent, has landed a new talk radio spot. He's going to be on WABC 770. He is taking the spot previously occupied by Andrew Cuomo. The owner of WABC is a gentleman named John Catsimatidis. I think that's how you say it. He said, quote, he checked with the White House and they had no objection. Cohen Tim says he plans to deliver the plain, unvarnished truth. Now, what's been really strange here is, the president and Cohen, of course, had a falling out. Cohen testified against him, really turned on him. But he's been saying a lot of nice things about President Trump. Listen to what he said. He says, you don't have to necessarily agree with every single thing the president says or does. His goal is to actually do right by the country. You may not agree with his methodology, but it's his methodology. The American people voted for him to be president of the United States. Every single president comes to the Oval Office with their own agenda. Donald Trump is entitled to his own agenda. If you don't like it, if you didn't want it, then maybe you should have gotten out and voted, but you didn't. 79 million people voted for the man, so allow him to fulfill his agenda. What do you think of that? Just a complete turnaround almost. You think he can get back in the good graces of Donald Trump?
I don't know. And, the premise of the show, Chris, to me seems to be something that Cohen's already done. Like he's already told his tell-all, right? It's like, how can you do a daily radio show every day kind of over and over again on the same shtick? I don't know.
I think it'll be an interesting show because, he was very close to President Trump for a long time, was kind of his consigliere, as they say in the mafia. I think that he'll be able to critique or analyze what the president does from a unique insider perspective on working for the man for 20 years. So I think it'll be an interesting show, and it sounds like he's trying to make amends with the president, saying that, hey, he was elected, and he should be able to do whatever he wants. He has an agenda. Back in January, he testified on behalf of New York Attorney General Letitia James and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. They were forcing him to testify. Tim, he said, I felt compelled and coerced to deliver what they were seeking. And he said, Letitia James and Alvin Bragg may not share the same office or political calendar, but they share the same playbook. So Michael Cohen's doing a complete 180 here. I guess he's trying to get back in the good graces of President Trump. President Trump does have a history of people that have fallen out with him, and he has allowed them back into the fold. I don't see it happening in this case, but I guess you can't blame the man for trying.
Let me get a bone thrown his way. And, I could definitely see the validity in your argument that, look, if he's going to provide, if it's actually going to be something forward-thinking where, like, the news of the day happens, like, for instance, Donald Trump places phone calls separately to Putin and Zelensky. I could see it interesting to hear Cohen say, okay, this is why he did that over the Independence Day weekend, and here's probably what he's angling towards. Knowing him as I know him, here's what he's probably trying to do. That could be an interesting show for someone who knows the president that well.
Yeah, and also, too, WABC has a conservative audience, not a liberal station, so I think Michael Cohen will know who his audience is. I think he's trying to kind of telegraph that by saying these positive words about Donald Trump. So I think it'll be an interesting show. He's had a Substack and a Twitter account with 1 million followers, so he's already has a built-in base of people that will want to listen to him. So we will keep updated on Michael Cohen. I guess it'll be called the Michael Cohen Show on WABC 770. Tim, remember the story we had a few weeks ago about how The View are saying that they are not a political show and they should be exempt from all of that?
Right.
Well, I think they have listened. Listen to this. The View hasn't hosted a candidate in a competitive race since February. And that's when the FCC began investigating the show's compliance with the equal time rule. Listen to this. The View also recently rebuffed a pitch by a representative for New York City's Mayor Zohran Mamdani to let fellow Democratic Socialists Dara Liza Avila Chevalier and Claire Valdez accompany the mayor on the show. The View said, no.
Okay.
You cannot come on the show. So Brendan Carr kind of throwing his weight around and kind of got the View people kind of scared a little bit.
So there's stuff going on in the background that is preventing The View from being itself, basically, which is probably a good thing,
I think that's so funny. I did not really realize they have not had a competitive candidate on the show since February. That's 6 months, 5 months?
Well, you and I wouldn't know because we don't watch it.
That's true.
We just see.
Joey gets us clips.
We just see the news about. We see the news about The View, right? We don't really watch The View, because it would hurt our eyeballs.
And we talked about this at the beginning of the show, how after the fireworks, the city of D.C. put out a red code alert, Tim. The rating made the city have the worse air than any other big city in the world.
For 5 minutes.
Because of fireworks, yes. But it had already fallen down the list by the evening.
These people... They hate America so much, Chris, that they're complaining about the very temporary smoke from fireworks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unreal.
Did Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce get married this weekend?
I asked Joey, because, we asked Joey all these questions that you and I don't know the answer to, and Joey could care less either whether they got married or not, but I think they did. Okay. I think they did, right,
I
Joey?
haven't heard anything on Entertainment Tonight or anything.
Well, I follow a subreddit about Saturday Night Live, and I saw these pictures of SNL people dressed up in tuxes, like Seth Meyers and Adam Sandler. And so I assumed they were going to see something, but I haven't seen pictures of what the inside of MSG looked like.
So it says here on Google.
I thought this would have been a huge deal.
It says here on Google, Chris, that yes, they did get married on Friday, July the 3rd, in a lavish, star-studded ceremony at Madison Square Garden in New York City, surrounded by 1,000 of their closest family and friends.
How selfish is that to get married over the weekend when, of course, all of the available New York police officers need to be out on the streets trying to patrol and make sure there's no mayhem, but they have to assign extra officers to Madison Square Garden to make sure that these people are safe and their guests. I mean, that's kind of full of yourself a little bit, isn't it?
It is. And you want to hear something even stranger? The ceremony was officiated by Adam Sandler. That's a little odd.
That is.
I didn't know he was he's Jewish, right?
Yeah, he is. That's right.
So is he ordained?
Probably was a civil ceremony.
Yeah, some kind of minister or something.
I didn't know who. I thought maybe we would have like a NFL ref maybe officiate.
Yeah, it's very odd. Taylor Swift has prided herself on being, even though she's a
she's a billionaire. Yeah.
She's a billionaire. She's a billionaire.
Put a B on that.
She's a billionaire, and she's marrying a multimillionaire. but she's prided herself on retaining her girl next door, country girl from Nashville, Aura, and all that.
Yeah.
This seems to be a little out of character. This is very showy. This is very show-offish.
You only get married once, supposedly.
I guess if you're a billionaire, you want to remember it. I don't know.
Have you guys ever had alligator? Would you eat alligator, Joel? You ever had alligator?
I think I've had alligator.
I know I've had turtle, probably had alligator down in New Orleans before we got on our cruise.
Well, I think I've had alligator bites.
Well, there's a
tastes
company.
like chicken.
There's a company called New Orleans Open Fire Company. They have the internet going crazy. They have a dish called fried crocodile arms, and they still have the skin halfway down on it with the claws.
No.
It's like only the top part is like meat, and the other part still has the skin on it with the claws. Would you eat that?
What's that phrase that Gabe Pfeiffer used to play? Oh, hell no. No.
The arms and legs, they're brined in pickle juice and buttermilk, then deep fried in a cast iron skillet over an open fire. The chicken wing alternative even features the reptile's claws.
Yeah, Gabe used to do that segment, Not Today, Satan. That would be
hell no.
That would be a perfect bit for Not Today, Satan. No, there's no way, Chris. No way.
Yeah, I would maybe try it if it was, breaded like a chicken nugget or something, but I don't want to eat something with the claws still on it. All right, that's the end of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Larry Connors USA is up next. Larry's going to talk about the time he censored himself. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
You feel it every time you check out. Prices up, paychecks stretched, families squeezed. That's why Ann Wagner's fighting to get government off your back and out of your way. Wagner passed the largest tax cut in American history, expanded child tax credits, ended taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security.